Hi, I'm Tanner from Cruzely.com, and after nearly 30 cruises, I've learned a thing or two when it comes to cabin tips that I think no cruise passenger should sail without. Some are common sense, and some are things that very few people know. But if you're about to sail, here is what you want to know before you cruise. Before I get too far, I just want to let you know that Cruzely is approaching 100,000 subscribers. So, if you find this video helpful and informative, then I hope that you'll subscribe and help us reach that goal. Let's begin with one that anyone with a balcony cabin has made the mistake of doing at least once, and that definitely includes me. If you were sailing with a balcony room, then inevitably there will be times that you have the door open to let in light and a fresh breeze. It's one of the big benefits of having this type of cabin. But what you don't want to do is to open up the door to the hallway at the same time. Anyone that's done this knows it creates a wind tunnel through your cabin. At best, it's a decent breeze and a rush of air that comes in. At worst, it can be strong enough to blow around light items around the cabin. Like I said, it's almost assured that at some point during your cruise, you'll accidentally do it, and it's not the end of the world, but it can be a major disruption to your room. One piece of equipment that you will hear to bring is an outlet adapter. Cruise cabins, they normally have limited outlet space, especially on those older ships. Start to plug in things like phone chargers or hair straighteners and anything else, and it doesn't take much time to run out of plug space. So yes, bring the adapter, but what you don't want to do is to bring one with a surge protector. If you bring one of those outlet strips, they typically have a surge protector built in. The issue is that the cruise lines prohibit surge protectors as it's reported that they can interfere with the ship's electrical system. Instead, those cheap adapters that give you 3 plugs in one space, they work perfectly. Now, one important caveat, Royal Caribbean just changed their rules to specifically outlaw these adapters. So if you're sailing Royal, then unfortunately you have to leave it at home. This is one that I've covered in another video, but it's something that you definitely never want to do in your cabin. When you cruise, a room steward will come and straighten up your room once or twice per day. They don't go through your things, but anything left out in the open, it will definitely be seen. So if you brought some lingerie to wear to spice things up, or maybe a toy to enjoy on your vacation, or maybe you stuck on some alcohol that you shouldn't have brought, well, let's just say that before you leave the room to go to dinner or the show, be sure to put it away. Now, as long as it's not illegal, it's no big deal, but it could make for some awkwardness the next time that you see the steward. One nice thing about a cruise is that food is available around the clock, and there's no rule that you have to eat it in a restaurant. Want to bring dessert back to the room, or you want to order room service? You just want to sit and enjoy a meal on your balcony. You're more than welcome to do so. One piece of advice, however, is to think about what you're bringing into the cabin and never bring in stinky foods, especially if you have an interior cabin with no access to fresh air. Those smells, they can linger, and you don't want to be smelling that meal well after you leave the cabin and come back. Your cabin is definitely your space, but on either side of you are people in their space. And directly above you are more people in their cabin, and across the hall, well, you've guessed it, there's more people. Cabins are fairly soundproof, but not 100%. So if you're yelling in your cabin, or you're listening to loud music, or you're stomping around, it's likely going to be heard by someone else. This is especially the case in the hallways, as the cabin doors, they seem to let in a lot of noise. And slamming doors also seem to carry through especially loud. Now, you don't have to treat your room like a library, but never be too loud, especially late at night when most people are trying to sleep. This tip is one that's a bit sneaky in that it's likely something you won't even notice, but it is a major safety issue. Now, your cabin door will always close automatically, just like in a hotel. But what I've discovered over the years is that the power of the automatic closing doesn't always mean the door fully latches. So it can look closed, but if someone were to try to pull it open from the outside, it would come right open. All it takes is a little extra pull to check, and the door will automatically latch if it's not already. Also, when you leave the cabin, give the handle an extra tug just to make sure that it's completely closed. Okay, so you're on vacation, and my advice is to not leave the room messy. Am I actually saying to clean your room? Now, just please hear me out. It's true that you have a cabin steward who will come in and clean things up. That's great, but at the same time, cabins are small. If you have clutter everywhere, like suitcases or clothes or dishes from room service, or a bunch of toiletries strewn about, it doesn't take much until the already small room starts to feel super cramped. So I'm not saying that you have to make your bed each morning, but keeping things a little tidy should make your room much more comfortable. Let's talk about your bathroom on the ship. It's small and it's really only space for one person at a time, but I want to talk about the toilet paper specifically. No matter how luxurious your cruise, your toilet paper is going to be awful. It's that one ply stuff that you can almost see through, and let's say that it can be a little bit rough. That's why I always bring wet wipes for the cabin. Not only are they great for feeling fresher down there, but you can also use them to wipe down surfaces in the cabin if you're worried about them not being clean enough. Just one thing to make clear, if you do use wipes, do not flush them down the toilet. You want to put them in the trash instead, as they can clog up the piping. If you think about romance when you sit out on your balcony, well, you wouldn't be the first cruise passenger to have that thought. But if you do decide to have a little bit of fun outdoors, you should never do it without considering how to be discreet. It's called a private balcony because your room is the only one with access, but others could accidentally see things going on. The glass balcony can be reflective to where people next door can get a glimpse, even if they're not trying to, if they walk out at the wrong time. As well, the dividers, they often don't go all the way to the ceiling or all the way to the floor, and they have small gaps that allow you to see into other balconies even if you are not trying to do so. If you do decide to have fun, it's a good idea to wait until night. Keep it quiet and make sure that your neighbors aren't around before you get started. Your key card is everything on the cruise ship. It's your credit card for onboard spending, it is your player's card in the casino, and it's also your room key, most importantly. But while you need the card to get into your room, you don't need it to get out. In fact, some cruise ships require a card be placed into a special slot just to enable the light switch. This means it can be way too easy to walk out the door, have it close and lock behind you, and then you realize that you forgot your card in the room. You obviously never want to leave without it, so it's a good idea to physically put your hands on your key card before you walk out the cabin door so that you can be sure it's with you as you leave. Otherwise, you're going to have to go down to guest services to be let back in. Every cruise cabin you sail, it comes with its own safe, usually located in the closet. It's small to the point to where a laptop normally won't fit inside, but it is enough space to put things like cash or passports or a cell phone and other valuables. It's also a smart idea to use the safe to avoid any sorts of crimes of convenience where someone just snags something because it was simply left out. You should always check the safe on day one as you arrive to your room. It operates usually with a 4-digit code. You put in the code in the press lock and you should hear it close tight. To open, you enter the same code again and then hit unlock. Now, I've been in some cabins where there's been a malfunction before, and I had to call the front desk to have the staff come repair it. If you wait until you're about to leave the room to use it for the first time, that could be an inconvenient delay when you want to go have fun. Your cabinet comes equipped with all sorts of lighting: overhead lights and bathroom lights, vanity lights, reading lights, and a lot more. They all have switches, but they aren't labeled, and sometimes it's not obvious which switch operates which light. For instance, there will be a main light switch that turns on the bright overhead lights by the cabin door, but there's often a second switch for the exact same lights by the bed so that you can turn them on and off without having to get up. The only issue is that the soft reading lights can also have a switch by the bed. So if you don't know which switch powers which lights, you could try to turn on a soft reading light when you wake up, only to be blinded by turning on the bright overhead lights instead. All you have to do is just play with the switches a little bit when you get to the room to get acquainted, and you'll be fine. Cruise ships can be notoriously easy to get turned around on. I've sailed a lot and I still get turned around on days 1 and 2 usually. The cabin hallways, they have no windows and it's just the same carpet and then door after door. If you're not careful, you could be trying to go in one direction only to realize that after walking a while, you went the wrong way. To help you tell forward from aft, many lines they put in markers or clues, such as the carpeting on NCL that has fish or triangles that point forward. But really, all you need is to know which direction to turn when you leave the cabin. Just check the ship map on the inside of the cabin door for reference, and that way you'll know which way it is to go to the front or the back of the ship, depending on where you want to go, making it faster to get to the fun. Finally, I'll leave you with one that hopefully is well known by now, but there's likely a few people who do still do it. I'm talking about smoking cigarettes or anything else inside of your cabin. Fire is always a big danger on a cruise ship, so lines are pretty careful about anything that might start one. If you smoke, there are designated areas where you can go and do it. Normally, it's a certain spot on an outdoor deck and the casino. But if you want to light up in the room, even on the balcony, that is not allowed. If found, cruise lines charge fines totaling hundreds of dollars that can put a real dent in your wallet, or they can even kick you off of the ship. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you learned a thing or two about your cabin before you sail your next trip. As a reminder, we are approaching 100,000 subscribers, so if you enjoyed this video, then I hope that you'll subscribe and join up as we reach that big goal. As well, for everything cruising, you can visit Cruzely.com, and until next time, happy sailing.